The Chicago sun blazed down on Michigan Avenue, a relentless August heat that made the asphalt shimmer like a mirage. Sarah Miller, was 22, a junior at Northwestern University, my canvas bag slung over my shoulder, my sneakers scuffing the pavement as I walked beside Ethan Carter. He was my boyfriend of 3 years, the charming finance major with a smile that could light up a lecture hall. We were heading to a coffee shop near campus, our steps in sync when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his brow furrowing, and muttered something about needing to grab something from the Walgreens across the street. "Wait here, Sarah," he said, his voice distracted as he stepped toward the crosswalk. "I'll be right back." I nodded, adjusting my bag, but a prickling unease settled in my chest. The traffic was heavy cars speeding through the intersection like they owned it. I watched Ethan's dark hair catching the sunlight as he waited for the pedestrian light to turn green. Then out of nowhere, a black sedan veered out of its lane, its tires screeching as it barreled toward him. Time slowed. My heart pounded like a drum in my ears. Without thinking, my body surged forward, my sneakers slamming against the pavement. "Ethan," I screamed, shoving him hard to the side. He stumbled, falling onto the curb safe. But the car didn't stop. It caught me. The impact was a sickening crunch as my left leg was pinned under the wheel. Pain exploded, white-hot and unbearable, searing through every nerve. I collapsed, my vision blurring, the world tilting as screams filled the air. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed at Northwestern Memorial, the sterile smell of antiseptic stinging my nose. My left leg was gone, amputated below the knee to save my life. The doctors' faces were grim, their voices gentle but firm as they explained the extent of the damage. I stared at the bandaged stump, my mind numb, unable to process the void where my leg used to be. Ethan sat beside me, his eyes red and swollen, his hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you saved my life. I don't know how to thank you." I tried to smile, but it felt hollow. My life as I knew it was over. The girl who loved running along Lake Michigan, who dreamed of graduate school and a career in finance, was now tethered to a wheelchair, her future uncertain. Yet Ethan's gratitude seemed genuine. He visited daily, bringing flowers, helping me through early rehab sessions. When he proposed 6 months later, kneeling beside my hospital bed with a simple silver ring, I said yes, believing his love could fill the emptiness left by my loss. Our engagement wasn't a fairy tale, but felt like a promise of stability. Ethan's parents, wealthy suburbanites from Naperville, were less than thrilled. At a tense dinner in their sprawling home, his mother's eyes lingered on my wheelchair, her lips pursed. "You're brave, Sarah," she said, her tone dripping with pity, "but marriage is a big commitment." His father was blunter, muttering about burdens when he thought I couldn't hear. I ignored them, clinging to Ethan's vows. He'd promised to stand by me, and I trusted him. But even then, a small voice in my head whispered doubts. Had I saved him out of love or instinct? Did he propose out of devotion or guilt? Those questions haunted me, but I pushed them down, focusing on the life we were building. Little did I know that moment on Michigan Avenue would define not just my past, but my future, a future I'd get to rewrite. If this story of sacrifice and second chances resonates with you, hit that like button to show some love, drop a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel for more tales of resilience and redemption. Your support keeps these stories coming, and I can't wait to share the rest of my journey with you. The next decade unfolded in a small Chicago apartment, its walls papered with faded floral patterns, the place that felt cozy until it didn't. Ethan and I married in a quiet ceremony at City Hall, just us, and a few friends, my wheelchair adorned with white ribbons. I was 23 and 24, and despite the occasional strain, his late nights at the office, my grueling rehab sessions, we built a life together. I thought it was stable, even happy, as I adapted to my prosthetic leg and managed my chronic myelitis, a lingering complication from the accident. The nerve pain was relentless, but Ethan's presence, his gentle smiles, made it bearable. We had our routines. Mornings were coffee, and NPR evenings were takeout from Lou Malnati's, and weekends were spent strolling or rolling through Millennium Park. Ethan started a media company with friends using the $80,000 from my accident settlement as startup capital. I didn't mind. I wanted him to succeed. But my rehab was cut short, and my doctor later warned that incomplete treatment likely worsened my myelitis. I brushed it off, telling myself it was for our future. As years passed, my health declined. By 35, my hair was streaked with gray, my face etched with lines that made me look a decade older. Ethan grew distant always on business trips, his study door locked late at night. I leaned on caretakers he hired, funded by the $20,000 he deposited monthly into my account. I told myself he was busy, successful, and providing for us. But deep down, I felt like a ghost in my own life, haunting a marriage that was more obligation than love. Then came the night that shattered everything. At a friend's housewarming in Lincoln Park, I slipped away to the backyard, my prosthetic leg aching under the moonlight. Voices drifted from an open window, Ethan's friend's words sharp as knives. "Ethan, how do you stand Sarah's coldness?" one said. "She's practically an older woman dragging you down." Another laughed. "You gave up Emma Lane for her. Emma was your high school sweetheart, man. Sarah's just a stand-in." My breath caught. Emma Lane, Ethan's first love, is a music major at our college. I'd known her, admired her poise, but never suspected she was the shadow over our marriage. The final blow came when someone mentioned their daughter Ethan and Emma's daughter born during our marriage. My heart cracked, the truth slicing through years of denial. Ethan had never loved me. He'd been trapped, resenting every moment. 2 months later, I died in the hospital, my lungs failing as myelitis consumed me. Ethan didn't visit. My soul lingered, watching as he stood by my body, his face not grief-stricken, but relieved. He lit a cigarette at my grave in Rose Hill Cemetery, his voice low and bitter. "Sarah, you lost your leg saving me. I paid my debt, stuck with you for 17 years. Now I'm free. In the next life, let's never meet again." He burned our marriage certificate, the flames consuming our past. 3 months later, I watched invisible as he remarried Emma in a lavish ceremony at the Drake Hotel. She wore a white gown, her smile radiant, their daughter a teenager by their side. Ethan's voice choked as he held Emma. "You and our girl suffered so long. Now we're together." I felt no pain, only a strange hum in my spirit, like a signal from the universe. It wasn't over. Fate had other plans. The Chicago sun blazed overhead, its August heat wrapping Michigan Avenue in a haze that made the skyscrapers shimmer. I, Sarah Miller, stood frozen on the sidewalk, my canvas bag heavy on my shoulder, my heart pounding as if it could burst through my ribs. Moments ago, I'd been dead, my soul, watching Ethan Carter burn our marriage certificate at my grave, his words echoing, "In the next life, let's never meet again." Now, impossibly, I was back 22 again on the day of the accident that cost me my leg. I lowered my gaze, my breath catching, as I saw my left leg whole and strong beneath the hem of my sundress. The sensation of toes curling in my sneakers, the solid connection to the pavement, was so real it hurt. A strange hum pulsed in my mind, like a faint radio signal whispering that this was no dream. Was it fate, a cosmic glitch? I didn't know, but the weight of a second chance pressed against my chest, both exhilarating and terrifying. Beside me, Ethan typed furiously on his phone, his dark hair falling over his forehead, his youthful energy untouched by the exhaustion that would later haunt him. He was 22, vibrant, and a finance major who'd charmed me in our college econ class. He hadn't yet proposed out of guilt, hadn't yet betrayed me with Emma Lane. But I knew the truth now. Our 17-year marriage had been a lie built on obligation, not love. He'd loved Emma, his high school sweetheart, and their secret daughter, not me. The hum in my mind grew louder, urging me to act. I could save him again, lose my leg, and repeat the cycle of pain. Or I could walk away, honor his cruel wish at my grave, and rewrite my fate. My hands trembled, torn between the love I'd once felt and the betrayal I now knew. I'd given everything for him, my leg, my savings, my dreams. No more. This time, I'd choose myself. Ethan glanced up, his clear blue eyes meeting mine. "Sarah, you okay?" He asked, his voice light but tinged with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I swallowed hard, the weight of my decision settling like a stone in my stomach. "I'm fine," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Just thinking." He shrugged, returning to his phone, oblivious to the life-altering moment unfolding. The pedestrian light turned green and he stepped toward the crosswalk, just as he had in my past life. My pulse quickened. The black sedan was out there waiting to change everything. I could warn him, pull him back, but what would that cost me? Another lifetime of pain. I clenched my fists, the hum in my mind, now a roar guiding me toward freedom. I took a deep breath, the Chicago air thick with exhaust and possibility. This was my chance to break free, to reclaim the life stolen from me. I wouldn't let Ethan's choices define me again. As he crossed the street, I stood still, my heart a battlefield of guilt and resolve. The hum faded, replaced by a quiet certainty. This was the start of my new story. The Chicago skyline loomed over Michigan Avenue, its glass towers reflecting the blinding summer sun. I stood rooted to the sidewalk, my canvas bag slung over my shoulder, my left leg miraculously intact, grounding me to this reborn moment. Ethan Carter, my boyfriend of 3 years, was halfway across the street, his phone still in hand, unaware of the black sedan speeding toward him. My heart raced, the hum in my mind pulsing like a warning. In my past life, I'd pushed him out of the way, losing my leg and tying my future to his guilt. Not this time. Tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming reality of my second chance. I could feel the pavement under both feet, the breeze on my calves, sensations I hadn't known for 17 years. Ethan turned, noticing my tears, his handsome face creasing with worry. "Sarah, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" I looked at him, really looked. At 22, he was breathtaking, dark hair, bright eyes, radiating the vigor of youth. But I saw the future in his gaze, the coldness that would replace his warmth, the resentment that would poison our marriage. The hum in my mind whispered again, a reminder of his betrayal, his secret daughter with Emma Lane. I wiped my tears, my voice calm but firm. "It's nothing, Ethan, but we need to talk." He frowned, stepping closer, his hand reaching for mine. "Talk about what?" "You're still mad about the fight, aren't you? I told you that the guy at the bar was harassing Emma. I had to do something. In my past life, I'd believed his story, how he'd smashed a bottle over a drunk's head to save Emma, his high school friend. I'd bailed him out, paying $5,717 in legal fees from my part-time translation gigs, money meant for my student loans. I knew the truth. Emma had staged the incident to manipulate him, and I'd been a fool. I stepped back, dodging his touch. "Don't explain," I said, my tone sharp. "It's your choice who you save. It has nothing to do with me." Ethan froze, his hand hovering in midair. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked, his voice tight. I glanced at my intact leg, the sight fueling my resolve. "Exactly what it sounds like. Oh, and the $5,700 I paid for your legal mess, my savings from working nights and weekends, pay it back. Soon." His jaw dropped, his eyes narrowing as if I'd slapped him. "Sarah, what's gotten into you? You're acting like I'm some stranger. I said you're not my responsibility." My voice steady despite the guilt flickering in my chest. Had I loved him enough to save him once, or was it instinct? The hum in my mind pulsed, urging me to stand firm. I wasn't the naive girl who'd sacrificed everything for him. Not anymore. Ethan's phone buzzed again, and he glanced at it, his expression shifting to something softer, almost guilty. "Hang on, I gotta take this," he said, turning away. "Hey, Emma," he murmured, his voice low but audible. "Yeah, I'm out of the detention center. Don't worry, I handled it." I watched him, the tenderness in his tone, a knife to my heart. He was already slipping back to her, just as he had in our past life. "Which brand of tampons do you use?" he asked, his ears reddening. "Okay, I'll grab them and some painkillers. Stay in your dorm." He hung up, turning back to me with a sheepish smile. "Sarah, something came up. Can you head back to campus? I'll grab your favorite dessert from Portillo's later." I stared at his phone, still lighting up with messages. The hum in my mind grew louder, a reminder of the betrayal. "No need," I said coldly. "I've got plans tonight. You do you." Ethan blinked, relief flashing across his face. "All right, be safe getting back." He turned toward Walgreens, his steps eager. I watched him cross the street, the pedestrian light green, the sedan looming. My heart clenched, should I warn him? The hum roared, drowning out my doubt. "Ethan." I called, my voice calm. "Be careful crossing the street." He grinned over his shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm invincible." 10 seconds later, a screech of brakes tore through the air, followed by a sickening thud. Someone got hit. A bystander screamed. I gripped my bag, my nails digging into my palms. Nausea rising as the crowd surged toward the intersection. I turned and walked toward campus, each step declaring my freedom, the hum fading to a quiet promise this was my life now, and I'd never let him retake it. The Northwestern University campus buzzed with late summer energy students sprawling on the quad, their laughter mingling with the hum of cicadas. I, Sarah Miller, sat in my dorm, my laptop open to a translation project, but my mind was elsewhere. The accident on Michigan Avenue, where I'd let Ethan Carter face the consequences of his recklessness, was hours ago, yet the screech of brakes still echoed in my ears. The strange hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, had faded, but but it left behind a clarity I couldn't ignore. Ethan's betrayal in our past life wasn't just a future possibility, it was rooted in lies I'd once believed. In my previous life, I'd been blindsided by Ethan's story about the bar fight that landed him in detention. It was a chilly spring evening in our junior year when I got the call from the Chicago PD. Ethan, the golden boy of the finance department, had smashed a beer bottle over a man's head at a Wicker Park dive bar. I was stunned. Ethan, the student council leader with a perfect GPA, didn't even raise his voice in arguments, let alone brawl with strangers. I scrambled to gather $5,700 in talents from my savings, earned through late-night translation gigs, to cover his legal fees and medical costs for the injured man. I signed paperwork, pleaded with lawyers, and bailed him out, my hands shaking as I handed over the money meant for my student loans. When I picked him up from the detention center, Ethan was a mess, his face bruised, his shirt torn, his knuckles scabbed. He rushed to explain, his voice earnest. "Sarah, I had to do it. This drunk at the bar was harassing Emma Lane, pinning her down. My buddy Jake and I walked in just in time. We couldn't just stand there. Emma Lane, his high school friend, is now a music performance major at our college. I knew her, beautiful, poised, always carrying herself like she belonged on a stage." I believed Ethan's story. Helping someone in danger was just like him, warm-hearted and impulsive. Besides, we'd always given each other space in our relationship, and I had no reason to doubt him. But that trust was a mistake. Years later in my past life, I learned the truth at a housewarming party in Lincoln Park hosted by Ethan's friend Jake Thompson. My health was failing then, my chronic myelitis a constant torment, my prosthetic leg a heavy reminder of my sacrifice. While Ethan laughed inside with his friends, I slipped out to the backyard, the cool September air soothing my aching nerves. I sat under a maple tree, its leaves tinged with early autumn red, and stared at my prosthetic, my fingers brushing the cold metal. Then a window creaked open and voices spilled out, sharp and careless. "Ethan, how do you deal with Sarah's attitude?" Jake's voice was laced with disdain. "She's so cold, like we're beneath her." Another friend chimed in, laughing. "Man, she looks 20 years older than you. You really gave up Emma Lane for her?" "Emma was your high school sweetheart, the perfect match." My breath hitched, my heart pounding, as I leaned closer, hidden in the shadows. Jake sighed, flicking ash from his cigarette. "Let's be fair, Emma screwed him over first. She ditched him in college for that rich senior with the Porsche. But Sarah, she's just a 70% lookalike for Emma. If we hadn't pushed Ethan to reconnect with Emma, he wouldn't have gone to that bar, gotten drunk, and fought that guy. Emma staged those photos to mess with him, and Sarah paid the price, literally." The words hit like a punch. Ethan and Emma had been first loves, their high school romance, the stuff of yearbook legends. After Emma dumped him for someone flashier, Ethan was devastated, drowning in whiskey. When she tried to win him back, sending flirty texts and staged bar photos, he'd snapped, fighting the drunk to save her. I'd paid his $5,700 in damages, lost my leg saving him from a car, and given up my dreams, all for a man who saw me as a substitute. The hum in my mind flared, a bitter reminder of my blindness. Now reborn, I sat in my dorm, the memory of that betrayal fueling my resolve. I wouldn't be Ethan's fool again. But a flicker of doubt gnawed at me. Had I been too harsh, demanding the money so coldly? The hum pulsed, soft but insistent, urging me to stay the course. I closed my laptop, my reflection in the screen, showing a face no longer weighed by pain. This was my chance to rewrite my story, and I wouldn't let guilt pull me back. The Northwestern campus was quiet as I returned from Michigan Avenue, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across Sheridan Road. My canvas bag bounced against my hip, my left leg whole and strong, carrying me with a freedom I hadn't felt in 17 years. But my stomach churned, the memory of the car's screech and Ethan's crumpled body haunting me. The hum in my mind, that strange cosmic signal, had guided me to let him face the consequences, but now it wavered, leaving room for guilt. Had I done the right thing standing still as the sedan struck him? I reached my dorm, the familiar brick building, starkly contrasting with the sterile apartment of my past life. My roommate Lily Chen was sprawled on her bed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, her eyes wide with hesitation. "Sarah, you okay? You look off." I tossed my bag onto my desk, grabbed a water bottle, and gulped it to quell the nausea. "I'm fine," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "What's up with you?" Lily hesitated, then slid her phone toward me. "This was just posted on the campus forum. It's about Ethan." The headline blared, "Finance student Ethan Carter hit in Michigan Avenue accident." Blurry photos showed a crumpled figure blood-staining the pavement. My chest tightened, the hum in my mind flickering like a faulty bulb. I'd warned him to be careful, hadn't I? But I hadn't moved, hadn't saved him like before. My phone buzzed, an unfamiliar number from Chicago's Second City Hospital. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Is this Sarah Miller, a nurse?" asked her voice, urgent. "Ethan Carter's been in a serious accident. You're his emergency contact. Can you come to the ER?" I frowned. "Why me, not his family?" "We're just classmates," I said coolly. "Contact his parents." The nurse paused. "You're the only contact on his phone. Can you please help us reach them? I don't have their info." I replied, my voice steady despite the guilt clawing at me. "I've got something urgent. Goodbye." I hung up the silence in the room, heavy as Lily and two other roommates stared, their mouths slightly open. Sarah Lily whispered that was cold. I shrugged, grabbed my bag, and headed to the bathroom, my legs heavy but intact. I didn't owe them an explanation. I didn't owe Ethan anything. Over the next few days, the campus buzzed with gossip. Classmates huddled in the library, their whispers halting when I passed. "She's his girlfriend, and she hasn't even called him," one said. "Heartless," another muttered. I ignored them, focusing on my classes, my notes filled with econ equations and translation drafts, but the hum in my mind kept flickering, questioning my choice. Had I been too cruel, letting Ethan suffer? I'd lost everything for him in my past life, my leg, my savings, my future. Was I becoming someone as callous as he'd been? I met my friend Michael Yang at a coffee shop near campus, and his warm smile was a balm to my turmoil. "You look stressed," he said, sliding a latte across the table. "Wanna talk?" I hesitated, then confessed that I let Ethan get hit by that car, Michael. I could have saved him, but I didn't. Michael's eyes softened, no judgment in them. "You don't owe him your life, Sarah. You've been through enough." His words eased the hum's doubt, grounding me in my choice. Back at the dorm, I threw myself into studying, the hum steadying as I prepared for my advanced English proficiency exam. But as I walked to class one morning, the accident replayed in my mind, the sedan's roar, Ethan's shocked face. The hum pulsed, a reminder of my power to choose. I'd spared myself the pain of my past life, but the cost was Ethan's suffering. Was that justice or vengeance? I pushed the thought aside, my steps firm on the pavement. This was my life now, and I'd fight for it no matter the whispers or the guilt. The Northwestern University campus hummed with the rhythm of fall leaves crunching underfoot as students hustled to classes. I, Sarah Miller, navigated the quad, my backpack heavy with textbooks, my mind heavier with the weight of my choices. Days had passed since the accident on Michigan Avenue, where I'd let Ethan Carter face the consequences of his recklessness, his right leg shattered by a black sedan. The strange hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, had steadied, but whispers of guilt lingered. Had I been too cold letting him suffer? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on my econ lecture, but the campus buzzed with gossip that followed me like a shadow. In my dorm, my roommate Lily Chen was glued to her phone, her face pale. "Sarah, you've seen the forum, right?" she asked, her voice hesitant. She slid her phone toward me, the screen displaying a Northwestern student post, finance major Ethan Carter in critical condition after Michigan Avenue crash. Blurry photos showed blood-streaked pavement, a crumpled figure under a paramedic's blanket. My stomach twisted, the hum in my mind flickering like a warning light. I'd warned him to be careful, hadn't I? But I'd stood still, choosing my freedom over his safety. My phone buzzed with a call from Second City Hospital. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Sarah Miller." A nurse's voice crackled. "Ethan Carter's been in a serious accident. You're listed as his emergency contact. Can you come to the ER?" I frowned, my resolve hardening. "Why me, not his family from Naperville?" "We're just classmates," I said, my tone flat. "Contact his parents." The nurse paused, her voice strained. "You're the only contact on his phone. Can you help us reach them?" "I don't have their information," I replied, my voice steady despite the pang in my chest. "I have something urgent to take care of. Goodbye." I hung up the silence in the dorm, deafening as Lily and our other roommates, Mia and Rachel, stared, their eyes wide with shock. Sarah Lily whispered that was harsh. Mia's mouth opened, but no words came out. I grabbed my backpack, heading for the door. "I don't owe him anything," I said more to myself than to them, and slipped into the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. Over the next week, the campus was a minefield of whispers. In the library, classmates huddled their conversations, halting when I passed. She's his girlfriend and hasn't even called him, one muttered. Cold-blooded, another hissed. I kept my head down, attended classes, and buried myself in econ problem sets and translation projects. But the hum in my mind pulsed, questioning my detachment. I'd lost my leg savings and dreams for Ethan in my past life. Was I becoming as heartless as he'd been, abandoning him in his hour of need? I met my friend Michael Yang at a coffee shop in Evanston, where its warm lights are a refuge from the campus scrutiny. Michael, a computer science major with a knack for making me laugh, slid a cappuccino across the table. "You look like you're carrying the world, Sarah," he said, his brown eyes kind. I hesitated, then confessed that I let Ethan get hit. "Michael, I could have saved him, but I didn't. Now everyone thinks I'm a monster." He leaned forward, his voice gentle. "You don't owe him your life. You've been through enough. Don't let their judgment define you." His words steadied the hum in my mind, grounding me. Michael had been my rock since my first year, always there with a joke or a late-night study session. We'd bonded over shared dreams, me in finance, him in tech, and his support felt like a lifeline. "Thanks," I said, managing a small smile. "Want to grab pizza later? My treat." He grinned, nodding, and I felt lighter. For the first time in days, my resolve reaffirmed. I wouldn't let Ethan's accident pull me back into his orbit. This was my life now, and I'd fight for it no matter what anyone thought. The sterile smell of antiseptic hit me as I pushed open the door to Ethan Carter's hospital room at Second City Hospital. It had been a week since the accident, and despite my resolve to stay away, I'd come for closure, not compassion. The hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, urged me forward, a reminder of the betrayal I'd endured in my past life. Ethan lay propped against the headboard, his right leg swathed in gauze, stained with yellow antiseptic and dark blood. His face was gaunt, his cheeks sunken, a shadow of the vibrant 22-year-old I'd known. The sight stirred a flicker of pity, quickly doused by the memory of his words at my grave, "I'm free." His eyes lit up when he saw me, a spark of hope in their dull depths. "Sarah, you came," he rasped, struggling to sit up, wincing as the movement tugged at his wound. Then his gaze dropped to my intact left leg, and the spark flickered, replaced by something darker, confusion, maybe recognition. "Why didn't you save me that day?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You could have stopped me. I know you could have." My heart skipped, the hum in my mind roaring to life. He knew. Somehow he remembered our past life just as I did. The cosmic glitch that had brought me back had touched him too, a shared echo of our 17-year marriage. I crossed my arms, my voice cold. "What makes you think I owed you that, Ethan?" His eyes widened, red-rimmed and desperate. "Sarah, we were married. I took care of you for years. You can't just—" I cut him off, stepping closer, my sneakers silent on the linoleum. "I'm here for two things: to end this and to get my money back. The $5,770 I paid for your bar fight, my savings from translation gigs. Transfer it now." His jaw tightened, anger flashing across his face. "You came to a hospital to ask for money. Sarah, do you even have a heart?" The hum pulsed, sharp and accusing, as memories of my past life flooded back, Ethan's distance, his affair with Emma Lane, their secret daughter. "You dare ask me about my heart?" I snapped, my voice low but venomous. "What about my leg, Ethan? The one I lost, saving you? Or the 17 years you spent resenting me, sleeping with Emma, raising your daughter behind my back?" His face was drained of color, his mouth opening and closing. He knew I knew everything. "You're delusional," he stammered, but his voice cracked. "I never lied to you. I took care of you, a cripple for years without complaint." The word hit like a slap, and before I could stop myself, my hand flew, striking his cheek with a sharp crack. "Don't you dare," I hissed, my jaw trembling with rage. "You hired nannies, threw money at me, and called it care. You were with Emma at that Blue Bay condo, weren't you? Were those business trips? And your daughter's parent-teacher meetings, too." Ethan's face flushed, his eyes darting away. "You don't understand," he muttered. "Every time we were together, your leg made me sick. I had to force myself through it." His words were knives, each one slicing deeper, but I refused to break. The hum in my mind steadied me, a reminder of my worth. "We're done," I said, my voice ice cold. "Transfer the money. Now." He glared, but his hands shook as he grabbed his phone, fumbling through a banking app. My phone pinged with the Alipay notification. $5,707 deposited. I blocked his number right there in front of him, my fingers steady, despite the storm in my chest. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me low and bitter. "You'll regret this, Sarah. You'll need me someday, and I won't be there." I paused, not looking back. "I've survived worse than you," I said, and walked out the door, clicking shut behind me. The hum in my mind was quiet now, a silent nod of approval. I'd faced him, reclaimed my power, and cut the ties that had bound me in my past life. Outside, the Chicago wind whipped through the streets, sharp and free, carrying me toward a future that was finally mine. The Northwestern University Library was a sanctuary, its high ceilings and rows of books muffling the world outside. Sarah Miller, sat at a corner table, my laptop open to a financial modeling spreadsheet, my notes scribbled with econ equations and translation drafts. It had been weeks since my confrontation with Ethan Carter in the hospital, where I'd severed our ties and reclaimed the $5,707 he owed me. The strange hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, had faded to a soft pulse, a quiet reminder of my second chance. I was free from Ethan's betrayal and the guilt of letting him face the consequences of that Michigan Avenue accident. But freedom came with a price. The campus gossip branded me heartless, a cold ex-girlfriend who'd abandoned her injured boyfriend. I pushed the whispers aside, focusing on my future. My advanced English proficiency exam was looming, a stepping stone to graduate school and a career in finance. I spent late nights studying my dorm room, lit by the glow of my laptop, BBC podcasts playing through my earbuds. The hum in my mind steadied me, urging me to keep going, but doubts crept in. Had I been too harsh, cutting Ethan off so completely? In my past life, I'd given everything, my leg, my savings, my dreams, for a man who saw me as a burden. Was I becoming someone who shut out the world to protect herself? A knock on my dorm door snapped me out of my thoughts. My best friend, Michael Yang, stood there, his lopsided grin brightening the room. "Sarah, you're gonna burn out," he said, tossing a bag of Portillo's fries on my desk. "Come on, let's take a break." Michael, a computer science major with a knack for coding and bad puns, had been my rock since my first year. We'd bonded over late-night study sessions and shared dreams, me in finance, him in tech. His kindness was a lifeline, contrasting with the betrayal I'd known. We walked to Lake Michigan, the Chicago skyline glittering under the October stars. Sitting on a bench, fries in hand, I confessed, "Michael, I keep wondering if I was too cold to Ethan. Everyone thinks I'm a monster." He tilted his head, his eyes soft. "You gave him a chance in your last life, Sarah. You don't owe him this one. You're allowed to choose yourself." His words silenced the hum's doubts grounding me. We laughed, trading stories about our professors, and for the first time in weeks, I felt unburdened. Back on campus, I started dating Ryan Patel, an AI major I'd met in a stats class. Ryan was all sharp wit and quiet ambition, his dark eyes lighting up when he talked about neural networks or cracked a joke about my coffee addiction. Our first date was at a dive bar in Evanston, where we debated Chicago pizza versus New York, his laughter warm and infectious. With Ryan, I felt seen not as a savior or a burden, but as Sarah whole and enough. We'd steal moments between classes, grabbing coffee or running along the lakefront, my legs strong and free. The sensation of sprinting wind in my hair was a gift I'd never take for granted again. By semester's end, I aced my English proficiency exam, my score high enough to secure a spot in Northwestern's graduate program for innovative finance. Michael threw a small celebration in his dorm with cheap wine and a playlist of 90s hits. Ryan was there, his arm around me, and as we danced to a cheesy Backstreet Boys song, I realized I was building something new, a life not defined by Ethan's betrayal or my past pain. The hum in my mind was a faint melody, now a nod to my resilience. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, surrounded by people who valued me for me. The Chicago winter draped the city in gray snow, piling along the streets, as I walked to Northwestern's financial lab, my breath visible in the frigid air. Sarah Miller was deep into my senior year, my days filled with graduate school applications and internship interviews. Ethan Carter, the man who'd betrayed me in my past life, was a fading memory, his name rarely crossing my lips. The hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, was a distant pulse surfacing only when news of Ethan reached me through the campus grapevine. His life, I learned, had unraveled since the accident that left his right leg shattered. Classmates whispered in the dining hall, their voices low but eager. Ethan had developed a severe infection after surgery, landing him in the ICU for weeks. His wealthy but distant parents had come from Naperville to file for his medical leave. Emma Lane, his high school sweetheart, had played the devoted girlfriend, posting photos of herself kissing Ethan's forehead in his hospital bed, her captions gushing about true love. The campus forum ate it up, praising her loyalty, but I knew better. In my past life, Emma had been Ethan's secret lover, their daughter born during our marriage. The hum in my mind flickered, a bitter reminder of their deceit. I met Michael Yang at a coffee shop near campus, the warmth of our lattes cutting through the January chill. Heard about Ethan. Michael asked, his eyes glinting with gossip. Emma's been all over him, but she's already cheating with a first-year student from the sports academy. I raised an eyebrow, unsurprised. Sounds like her, I said, sipping my coffee. Michael leaned in, lowering his voice. Apparently, Ethan caught them at a hotel. Tried to fight the guy, but with his leg he got pummeled. Back in the hospital now. I nodded, a cold detachment settling over me. The hum pulsed, questioning if I should feel satisfaction or pity. I chose neither. Ethan and Emma's choices were theirs, not mine. I'd warned him on that fateful day, letting him face the consequences. Their drama was no longer my burden. Let them crash and burn, I told Michael, who grinned, toasting me with his cup. That's the spirit. Months later, news broke that Ethan and Emma had married in a lavish ceremony at the Drake Hotel. Michael texted me a photo from the campus forum, Emma in a white gown, Ethan leaning on a crutch, their smiles forced. They invited half our class, he wrote. You okay? I was more than okay. I was interning at a Chicago finance firm, and my graduate school acceptance letter was framed on my dorm desk. Ryan and I were planning a summer trip to New York, and our relationship grew stronger with every late-night talk. Ethan's wedding was a distant echo, irrelevant to my new life. But their story didn't end happily. By summer, whispers reached me through Ryan, who'd heard from mutual friends. Emma's marriage to Ethan had become a nightmare. Trapped in a small apartment with Ethan and his overbearing parents, she faced constant abuse. Bitter and broken, Ethan took out his frustrations on her, his once charming demeanor replaced by rage. His parents blame Emma for his downfall and treat her like a servant. When she miscarried after a heated argument, Ethan cursed her, calling her useless. The hum in my mind stayed silent, offering no sympathy. Emma's breaking point came in a chilling headline I saw on my phone. One July morning, Chicago woman arrested for poisoning family with rat poison. The article showed Emma in a yellow detention vest, her head bowed. She'd laced their meals with poison, driven to despair by Ethan's beatings and his family's cruelty. His mother collapsed, exposing the crime, and Emma was arrested. Ethan survived, but was left weaker, his life in tatters. I stared at the screen, feeling neither triumph nor sorrow, just a quiet detachment. The hum pulsed once, a final nod to their self-inflicted ruin. I closed my phone, turning to Ryan, who sat beside me on our apartment balcony, the Chicago skyline sparkling below. You okay? He asked, his hand finding mine. I nodded, squeezing his hand. They made their choices, I said. I made mine. The hum in my mind was a faint whisper now, a reminder that I'd chosen freedom over vengeance, a new life over the ashes of my past. The Indiana sky was a muted gray as I stepped off the train in my hometown of Fort Wayne, the air thick with the familiar scent of damp fields and diesel. Sarah Miller hadn't been back in years, not since my mother's death when I was 14. Now at 23, with my senior year at Northwestern University behind me, I carried the weight of my reborn life, a life free from Ethan Carter's betrayal, but shadowed by old wounds. The hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my second chance, pulsed faintly, stirring memories of my father and stepmother who'd made my childhood a battleground. This trip wasn't about nostalgia. It was about settling scores. My father, Tom Miller, and my stepmother, Linda, lived in a modest house on the edge of town, its peeling paint a testament to their neglect. I'd come unannounced, my backpack slung over my shoulder, my heart steeled against their coldness. The occasion was my stepsister Claire's engagement party, a lavish affair at a local country club. Claire, Linda's daughter from a previous marriage, was marrying Jason Reed, the son of a wealthy factory owner. The hum in my mind flickered, reminding me of the pain they'd inflicted Linda's affair with my father while my mother lay dying of cervical cancer, their schemes to push me out of the house, their taunts that I was a burden. Claire had joined in, mocking me at school, turning my classmates against me. They'd never seen me as family, only an obstacle. At the party, the country club glittered with string lights, the air buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses. Radiant in a silk dress, Claire clung to Jason's arm, her smile smug as she basked in triumph. My father and Linda fawned over Jason, their voices dripping with pride. "He's perfect for our Claire," Linda gushed, barely acknowledging my arrival. Tom's glance was fleeting, his eyes sliding past me to focus on Jason's Rolex. I stood on the sidelines, my presence a ghost they preferred to ignore. But I wasn't here to blend in but to disrupt. The hum in my mind pulsed, urging action, but a flicker of doubt crept in. Was revenge worth it? In my past life, I'd clung to Ethan despite his betrayal, desperate for any semblance of love. Was I now becoming someone who hurt others to heal herself? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the plan I'd hatched. Browsing a job board weeks earlier, I'd found a posting for a receptionist at Reed Manufacturing, Jason's family business. I hired an actress, Emily Carter, no relation to Ethan, a charismatic 24-year-old with a knack for charm. My instructions were simple: apply for the job, get close to Jason, and see if he'd stray. If she succeeded in breaking the engagement, I'd pay her a $20,000 bonus. Nothing illegal, just a test of Jason's loyalty, a test I knew Claire didn't deserve to pass. Emily was a natural. Within weeks she'd landed the job, her warm smile and sharp wit catching Jason's eye. She sent me updates, coffee runs, turning into long chats, subtle flirtations at company events. I monitored from Chicago, and my graduate school classes in innovative finance kept me busy. My boyfriend Ryan noticed my distraction one night while studying in my apartment. "You're scheming again," he teased, his dark eyes glinting. I confessed my plan, expecting judgment, but he squeezed my hand. "They hurt you, Sarah. Just don't lose yourself in this." His support steadied me, the hum in my mind, affirming my choice. 3 months later, Emily texted me the engagement was off. Jason had fallen for her, their late-night meetings escalating to a full-blown affair. 2 months later, she sent a photo of 2 marriage certificates, hers and Jason's. I stared at the image, a mix of satisfaction and unease stirring in my chest. Claire's pain would mirror mine, but had I gone too far, Emily called, her voice bright. "Sarah, I owe you. Jason's the real deal. Will you be my maid of honor? And, I'm pregnant. Be the godmother." I laughed, the hum quiet but approving. "Send me the wedding details," I said, wiring her the bonus. Back in Fort Wayne, I watched Linda and Tom crumble at the news, their golden plan for Claire ruined. Claire's tears at the country club were public, her humiliation a mirror to the isolation they'd forced on me. I felt a pang of guilt. Claire wasn't Linda, but the hum reminded me of their cruelty, how they'd thrown my belongings in the trash, rallied my peers to call me a rat. If Linda could steal my father, why couldn't someone steal Jason? I told myself I'd done Claire a favor, exposing Jason's weakness before marriage. But as I left Fort Wayne, the hum flickered, questioning if I'd crossed a line. I pushed it down, boarding the train to Chicago, my heart lighter but not entirely free. Spring painted Chicago in soft greens, the Lake Michigan shore sparkling under a late April sun. I sat at a cafe in Lincoln Park, a latte steaming before me, the city's skyline a backdrop to my new life. I, Sarah Miller, was 25, a management trainee at a top Chicago finance firm, my days a whirlwind of spreadsheets and flights to New York. Graduate school at Northwestern had been a triumph, my smart finance degree earned with late nights and relentless focus. The hum in my mind, that cosmic signal of my rebirth, was a faint whisper, now a nod to the journey that had brought me here, a journey from betrayal to freedom. My life was complete. Ryan Patel, my boyfriend, was a constant light, his AI research keeping him as busy as my finance projects. We'd moved in together, a cozy apartment near the Loop, where we'd cook pasta and argue over movie choices. One Valentine's Day, as I worked late in New York, Ryan called, his voice warm through the phone. "Marry me, Sarah," he said, half joking, half serious. I laughed, promising to talk when I was back in Chicago. The hum pulsed, approving, a reminder that love could be genuine, not a cage like Ethan's had been. Michael Yang, my best friend, remained a steady presence. We'd meet for coffee in Evanston, trading stories about our careers. He was coding at a tech startup, I was climbing the corporate ladder. "You're unstoppable," he'd say, his grin infectious. His support alongside Ryan's grounded me, a stark contrast to the isolation of my past life. In that life, I'd been trapped by Ethan's resentment, my body ravaged by chronic myelitis, my spirit broken by his affair with Emma Lane. Now I ran along the lakefront, my legs strong, my heart free. But freedom didn't erase the past. As I worked on financial models late at night, memories surfaced: Ethan's cruel words at my grave, my father and Linda's coldness, and Claire's smug smile. The hum would flicker, stirring a hollow ache. Had my revenge on Claire been justice or pettiness? I'd orchestrated her heartbreak, but it hadn't filled the void left by my family's betrayal. I confided in Ryan one evening, my voice soft as we sat on our balcony. Did I go too far with Claire? I asked. He squeezed my hand. You survived, Sarah. That's what matters. Let the past go. His words steadied the hum, urging me forward. One spring afternoon, I walked through Millennium Park the Bean, reflecting the sky's endless blue. My phone buzzed with a group chat from our old college class messages flooding in about Ethan and Emma. A news article was shared, Chicago woman convicted of poisoning family. Emma, driven to despair by Ethan's abuse and his parents' cruelty, had laced their food with rat poison. Ethan survived a shell of himself while Emma faced prison. I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet detachment. The hum pulsed once, a final farewell to their story. My own story was different now. My firm offered me a permanent role, the salary a number that made my breath catch with bonuses that promised stability. Ryan proposed for real, a ring glinting in a Chicago restaurant, and I said yes, my heart full. Michael, ever the planner, was already plotting our wedding playlist. The scars of my past, Ethan's betrayal, my family's cruelty, were real but distant like stars fading in the dawn. The hum in my mind was silent now, its purpose fulfilled. As I stood by Lake Michigan, the wind sharp and free, I thought of the girl who'd lost her leg, her dreams, her hope. She was part of me, but I was more whole, resilient, alive. Laughter from a nearby family floated over pure and bright. I smiled, the world vast and open. Taking a final sip of my latte, I walked toward the sunlight, my steps firm, my future mine alone.